are going to learn to divide decimals. We're going to start with 693 divided by 30. We'll rewrite it like this. 693 is our dividend, 30 is our divisor. And when we're dividing with decimals, we want to keep everything lined up really well, so we're going to take 30 into one digit at a time. So 30 goes into 6, 0 times, and we want our 0 to go right directly above the 6. 0 times 30 is 0. Subtract that, bring down one digit at a time. 30 goes into 69 2 times, and 2 times 30 is 60. Subtract that, bring down the next digit. 30 goes into 93 3 times. 3 times 30 is 90. And we have a remainder of 3. Now, in the past, we've written that as a remainder of 3. We've also written that as 3/30ths, or if we simplify that, 1/10. And all of those work great, but we're now going to learn another way to write a remainder. So the next way we write the remainder is we put a decimal here and then a 0, because once we put a decimal, and we can put as many zeros after that as we want without changing the value of the 693. And we're going to put our decimal directly straight up from where we put it, which is why it's important to keep all of this lined up so that our decimal ends up in the right spot. Now we can bring down the 0, and 30 goes into 30 one time. 1 times 30 is 30, and there is nothing left over. And there is our answer, our quotient. So 693 divided by 30 is 23 1/10. Now you can take and check that by multiplying. Let's take our 231. Keep in mind we've got one decimal place, times 30. I would like to write the 0 over here to the side because then I can just put it straight down and forget about it. And 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 2 is 6. We've got one decimal place. Put our decimal. And 693.0 is the same as 693, which is what we started with. So we know that that is the correct answer. Okay, let's try one more example. Let's clear that off. Let's do 748 divided by 20. So we're going to take our 748 divided by 20. 20 goes into 7, 0 times. Remember, we want to keep that lined up. 0 times 20 is 0. Subtract that, bring down the 4. 20 goes into 74 3 times, and 3 times 20 is 60. Subtract that, bring down the 8. 20 goes into 148 7 times, and that's 140. Subtract that, and we have a remainder of 8. So at this point, once we get our remainder, we're going to put our decimal and 0 up here, bring the decimal straight up, bring our decimal down, and continue dividing. 20 goes into 80 4 times, and 4 times 20 is 80, and there is nothing left over. So we can leave off that 0 that's in the front. And so 748 divided by 20 is 37 4/10. Okay, I want you to pause the video as soon as I give you your problems to do. I'm going to give you 2 problems to do on your own that you'll turn in on Monday. And then pause the video while you work them. So we've got 456 divided by 15, and 987 divided by 14. Okay, pause the video here and work those 2 problems. And then come back because I'm going to show you how to divide when you've got decimals in the dividend or the divisor. Okay, now we're going to do dividing when we've got decimals in both in one or the other of our dividend or our divisor. So the first thing we're going to do is, it's okay to have decimals in our dividend. This is our dividend. But we don't want to have decimals in the divisor. This is the divisor. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this by 10 so that we can get rid of that decimal. Because remember, when you multiply by 10, you can just move the decimal one place over here, making that a 6. But if we multiply this by 10, in order to keep the same proportions, we need to also multiply this by 10, making this 72. So now we have a new problem that is 72 divided by 6. We'll do that over here real quick. 72 divided by 6. 6 goes into 7 one time. And 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract that, bring down the 2. And 6 goes into 12 2 times, which is 12. And we have nothing left over. So 72 divided by 6 is 12. And 7.2 divided by 0.6 is also 12. Now you can check that by taking 12 times the 6. Remember, we've got one decimal place. And that is 72 with one decimal place. And these match up, so we know we have the correct answer. Okay, so let's do one more example of these. We've got 1 6/100 divided by 2/10. And again, we're going to look at our divisor to determine what we need to multiply it by. We're going to multiply our divisor by 10 because that will help get rid of the decimal. That gives us a 2. If we multiply this by 10, we're going to multiply this by 10. We move it just one place. That's going to give us 10.6. Remember, it's okay to have a decimal in the dividend, but we don't want a decimal in our divisor. Okay, now we've got 10 6/10 divided by 2. 2 goes into 1 0 times. Bring down our 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times, which is 10. Bring down our 6. When we come to our decimal, though, we want to just bring it straight up, which is why it's so important to keep everything lined up so that it ends up in the right spot. And 2 goes into 6 3 times, which is 6. And we don't have to add any extra zeros onto there. If we had had a remainder at this point, we could have just added a 0 and then brought the 0 down without having to add a decimal because our decimal was already there. So 10 6/10 divided by, no, that's not what I meant to put, sorry. Go back to our original problem. 1 6/100 divided by 2/10 is equal to 5 3/10. Again, we can check it by multiplying these two. Let's take our 53 times 2. Keep in mind we've got 2 decimal places in this one. And then come over here. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 decimal places. We ended up with 1 6/100, which is what we started with. And so we know we have the correct answer. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 problems to do on your own. So once I put the problems up there, you can pause the video. And then when you are done with those problems, make sure you save the paper to turn in on Monday. And the video is finished. So let me write those down for you. Let's do 64 4/10 divided by 1 4/10. And 61 2/10 divided by 1 2/10. All right, have fun.